Well, good afternoon. I am here with Paula Presta, accountant, CPA and CA with KPMG here in Kamloops. And I've asked Paula if she'd come in and have a talk today with me a little bit about margin and how that affects your bottom line. We're in a period of time where with sometimes less customers into our establishments, there's temptation to sometimes put things on sale a little bit more because we want to attract customers or we're worried about them not coming in. And I thought Paul and I could have a little conversation around how that affects your bottom line and some of the considerations that you might want to think about and ways that you can protect your margin to ensure that we get through this time in as healthy a position as possible.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, John, for having me.
Paul, I know you see things after they've happened. So a year down the way is when you're looking and you're asking a question of maybe what happened to a person's margin or top line sales. So maybe if you could speak a little bit to that.
Sure. I mean, yes, you're right. Often we are looking a little bit in the rear view mirror when we're preparing a set of financial statements or doing the taxes. So at that time, of course, we ask the question and we look at margins depending on product lines or mix. However, it would be at that time, you know, you're making decisions that are reactive at that point. So it's extremely important to have weekly, daily, monthly, whatever your system can accommodate reporting so that you are well on top of what your margins are for certain product lines to be able to understand what the margin is and where you get the most profit, what products are you selling that are creating the most profit for you and the bigger bottom line, and others that might be loss leaders or whatever that attract people into the store. It's really important that people understand that.
Now, you deal with businesses from all sectors across the board. I'm sure you've been fielding a ton of questions since all this began. Are you seeing some of the business models change and become creative to adapt to this so they can protect their margins? And what are some of those changes that you've seen?
Yeah, people are really evolving. Businesses are really evolving, especially retail. Retail is one of those times where, or places where people have to physically come into the store, especially our local merchants. And so people are really truly evolving in, online, because people are more comfortable purchasing things online, curbside, pickup or delivery. We're seeing people for sure increase, sort of sanitary measures or whatever they have to do in order to accommodate people coming into the store. But most importantly, I think people are getting creative in marketing through social media, as well as some standard type marketing arrangements, but really becoming creative and pivoting their business to really what people need right now. Yeah.
There's going to be some very unique line items that we're going to see on our
absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, Paula, when you're looking at reducing some of your pricing, what are some of the effects that you see? Like if you were to do a 10 or 15% off discount, depending on your margin sets, what would you have to be aware of, and how much more product sales would you need to make up for that, and how cautious would you be about doing that without really digging deep into it?
So I think the most important thing to understand are first, what are your fixed costs? What are those costs that you can't avoid? So maybe your rent, employee costs are going up with minimum wage going up, employer health tax. You've got a certain amount of advertising or marketing expense. It's often a really good time right now to look at that and see whether or not those marketing expenses are really effective, and whether or not maybe you can cut back and do cheaper forms of advertising. But really understanding what the fixed costs are, and then knowing that, you work backwards. And so you say, okay, then what do I need to make in order to create a bottom line? And some products will have a much higher margin, and some products lower margin, and you've got higher volume. So it's really important that when you're assessing, should I cut 10% off or 15% off, it's really understanding what are you trying to achieve in doing that. Are more people going to come into the store because when you do that, you need to make up for it, just like you said, in volume. So does it make sense to potentially decrease the price on some of your smaller margin items? But your big ticket items, if you attract people into the store in order to make up that margin, that might be one strategy. But often what we see is, a sale might draw a customer into the door, but often in order to preserve the margin and the bottom line at the end of the day, things still need to move at an appropriate margin and understanding. The other thing about margin right now is reassessing that, or have the shipping costs increase? How long is it taking to get your products in the door? You don't want to promise a sale on something, come in and be out of stock, which we're finding in a lot of circumstances. So I think it's just the time to potentially look at prices, look at what the competition in a lot of ways is charging, and then looking to add value in the experience of them coming into the store. The customer service is going to be extremely imperative, and just like we were talking before, just adding value to that product or service so that you're not fully discounting. You're making it up some way.
Are you hearing it all from your business clients? Are any of them going back to their suppliers, manufacturers, financial institutions, and trying to find extra value or ways that they can negotiate some better pricing or reduced rates in order that they can hang on to their margins a bit better?
Yeah, I mean, there's been various amounts of concessions, as you know, that have been made during this period of time. Financial institutions have allowed people to defer their mortgage payments for a period of time. There's wage subsidies. There's been a loan provided by the banks or the financial institutions. There's been numerous things to keep businesses afloat. However, we are starting to see now the pressures on to all the suppliers, and as well as customers as well, to coming in and just ensuring that the price is right, because people can now just go online and buy it if they so choose. So the price is right. Why are they coming into the store? That adding that value, so that people are going back to the suppliers and the service organizations and saying, what can you give me here? The problem with that is it has a ripple effect, right? So the supplier is in the same position. So we're asking, you're bleeding blood from a stone, right? So it's just this continual sort of measure. At some point, we have to decide what the value of that product or service is and stick to our guns and be able to say that's what that is worth, being able to buy it locally or come into the store or have that service done here.
Well, I know we're hearing that people that are open now and are trading, but the customers are treating them extremely fair, and we may think a customer is looking for a discount, but people are actually very happy to see stores open, restaurants open, people providing service. I know when I got my hair cut, I think I left the biggest tip ever that I had, because I was so appreciative that I could actually get that done.
Yeah, I think right now customers are wanting to support, especially our local community. Anybody can see the number of delivery trucks driving around at any point in time, and you really understand that money is going out of our community. So how do we keep it here, and how do we keep it local? I think people are more than willing to pay a fair price, especially if they're going to get good service and good value for what they're buying.
So Paula, for people that are in retail, restaurant, manufacturing, any ones that are changing their model over these last few months, in a perfect world, when would you as an accountant want to see or have a conversation with that company about the changes that are going on, so you don't see that 12 months down the way?
You bring up a very good point. Again, it won't help to look through a rear view mirror at the time, because then it's a reactive measure. I think at this time, as businesses are changing their models and pivoting and potentially investing in an online platform or an e-com platform, or pickup delivery, or potentially even like curbside delivery, really understanding what it's costing you to do that. And what that is really, and nobody loves this, but we have to bookkeep. We have to make sure that those records are up to date. And like I said, depending on your system, if you've got a point of sale system, then maybe you get that information daily. Maybe you get it monthly. But at the very least, I would love to be able to see my clients come in and say, this is kind of how it's gone in the last month or two. This is how we've pivoted. Does this make sense? And you know, we may find that it absolutely does
Yeah.
in order to survive this period of time. But we might also give the advice that, you know what, this right here, this is a loss-making operation, and we need to pivot again. So I absolutely, the more timely, the better.
Well, you're a professional, like a lot of professionals. Your pajama bottoms down and a dress shirt up top in the days, and plenty of people aren't going into their regular office setting. But that doesn't mean that you can't work with someone digitally nowadays. I'm sure you're like others, a Zoom call.
Yeah, so we've been home since the middle of March, and we still did, you know, personal tax returns, corporate tax returns, financial statements. Luckily for us, we can live in a digital world. Unfortunately, we don't get that one-on-one sort of camaraderie and be able to see our client face to face, which is really invaluable. But yes, we're doing Zoom calls, and we're, you know, whatever it takes for the client to feel comfortable. But certainly getting the information and pouring over that information and having a conversation, that can all be done.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Paul, it's been great to have you here. Hopefully the takeaway from today is do what you can to protect your margin. Be creative. If you are going to change your business model around, don't forget one of the most important people you have in your business support team, which is your accountant, and bring them in early into that conversation. I'm sure that they enjoy having a Zoom call just like a lot of us do that aren't seeing people face to face anymore. So thank you very much. Be safe and have a wonderful week.
Thanks, John.